Good morning. Come on in. Clean my screen. Come on in. Happy hump day. Come on in. We got some things to talk about on this episode of Car Chronicles. Come on in, like, share, and subscribe. Where my seniors at? Where my senior men? My senior. Let's talk about these prescriptions and groceries. Is the struggle real? If it is, India said, listen, we are the plug. We are the plug. China said they the plug when it comes to handbags, shoes, clothes. India said we are the plug when it comes to extending your life expectancy. How about that? Come on in, like, share, and subscribe. We're going to get into some things this morning like no other day. Listen, India, they're like, listen, we got some things to say too. We got some things to say. China, hand us the microphone. We got some things to say. We need to talk about how we're helping the U.S. out as well. Come on in. It's a beautiful sunny day today in Georgia. Where are you located? Come on in. Hit the like button. We got some things to talk about on this episode, this Car Chronicles episode on Hump Day on Wednesday. Happy Wednesday. Like the video. Engage. Drop a comment. Let me know how you're being impacted by today's economy. Are you someone who's like, listen, I'm struggling. I got to choose between getting this prescription filled, feeding these kids, putting food on the table. Choices. I got to go to Jesus before every decision because I ain't got it. I'm like Tasha K. I ain't got it. I can't afford it. I don't have the money to go and get that prescription filled every month. I don't have it. I ain't worked in Lord knows how long. I don't have benefits. I got to pay out of pocket. Let me know. How are you feeling? Are you being impacted by today's prices? Like the video as you come on in. Please double tap the screen. Like the video. It helps with the algorithm. Engage. Talk your talk in the comments. Just do it respectfully. But I'm really interested in particular for those who are up in age. I put in the title 55 plus, but some of you young folks are on meds. Some of y'all can say if that's you. If that's you, are you on prescription medication that you have to regularly get filled? And you like, listen, it's a lot. It's expensive. Even the generic brand is expensive. I ain't got it, Chic. I ain't got it. I gotta eat. I gotta take care of these kids. I gotta buy clothes. I gotta pay bills. And this prescription, I know my blood pressure is pressuring. Listen, I know all of that. But I just don't have the means to get that prescription filled because the prescription costs $300. $1,000. So listen, this morning I was listening to a video where it was talking about India. Good morning. Please like the video. Double tap the screen. India were like, the U.S. President Trump is assessing us with a 26% tariff. So that's a cause for concern by people who, like, I was listening to medical professionals just talk about from the U.S. talk about why they were concerned, because they see people coming to the hospitals, the ER, as a result of not taking their medication regularly. And the reason why people aren't taking their medication regularly, it's not because, they're on some I just don't want to type thing. They're not taking it regularly because they're like, I can't afford it. There are people that's like, I can't afford to get my prescription filled, so that's why I don't take my medicine regularly. Good morning, come on in, double tap the screen, like the video. So let me know, are you someone who's basically struggles with getting your prescription filled every month because you cannot afford it? So what I have come to learn is that India supplies about 50% of the American generic prescription meds. Surprise, surprise. They said they prescribe the prescriptions for about 90% of the world. Surprise, surprise. So the plugs are revealing themselves, people. What I'm saying is the plugs are revealing themselves. They said, listen here, Linda, listen here. Uncle Charles, I know it's cost you a lot of money, an arm and a leg in the USA to get that blood pressure medicine filled. But if you can make your way to India, some of those prescriptions we can fill. Some of those medicines you don't even need a prescription for. And then the ones you do need a prescription for, you're going to be paying for a month's supply under $200. This is what India is saying. They're like, yo, like some of these steroid medicines, antidepressant medicines, antibiotics, things like that, medicines that the U.S. charge hundreds of dollars for, we can charge you $5, $10. Some of the shots, how many of you are getting like regular shot injections for something, maybe a steroid shot, and to help manage a pain. I know a lot of my mother-in-law, she sometimes, to help manage pain, like she'll go and get like a shot. Those shots are valued at like $1,000 or more per shot. And if you go to India, you can get a shot for a couple of $100, if that. Things are just cheaper there. So they're like, a lot of people who are aware of this, they actually make trips over to India to just get their meds. They're like, okay, I need these meds, so I'm going to go ahead, book this little trip to India to go over there and make it do what it do, because Lord knows I ain't got it like that in the U.S. There are like muscle relaxers, non-opioid painkillers, antibiotics. You can get those in India without a prescription. You need a prescription for all of that in the USA. All of that. But they're like, come over here, just walk in the pharmacy, wherever, and we gonna take care of you. Also, the US, we may charge like $1,000 plus a month for like the shot, but though it's maybe $168 a month. Like that's if you want to drill down to the numbers. So like a shot might be $1,000, but they'll be like, yo, we'll give you that same shot for $168. This is what India is saying. They're like, listen, you do not have to be on the soup line behind your medicine. You can come over here, because remember, China already said they didn't all weekend. They just had a lot to get off their chest, and they spilled the beans, and they talked about how they've been the one behind all of the brands. They're the brains. It's their craft behind all these nice luxury items that many of you just have to have. And so they're like, okay, well, let me holler at you. Let me tell you something. We're the ones who are making all of this. As quiet as it's kept, we are the ones who are making these luxury items. So if you're still interested in having these items and you want them for the low, come visit us. Or here are some websites where you can go directly to place an order for these items. So India is basically now like on this type of tip where there's people talking from India saying, hey, we are the plug when it comes to prescription medicine. So if you're interested in cheaper medicine, come visit us. We can help you. We help many countries. It comes from here. You may have not known that, but now you do. It comes from here. So the question I have is, how is all of this, now that this information is out in a way that it wasn't before, how is it going to impact the American economy, the U.S. economy, now that we know that things are just severely overpriced here, and other countries are saying, hey, we're actually the provider, we're the plug. So if you're interested in wanting to save money, just come and see us, and we'll help you out. We'll get you, those medicines that you need. It was one nurse that was talking, and she was like, she's just really concerned about the tariffs, in particular on India. She was a white American nurse. She said because one day, there was a man who came into, I guess he came to the ER, the hospital, whatever, and he was a father of 4 kids under 10. And he said that he was limited on funds, and he came to a point to where he either had to spend his money on feeding the babies, feeding the children, 4 children under 10, or getting his blood pressure prescription filled. Listen, he couldn't do it both. He's like, listen, one or the other. Which one am I going to choose? So, of course, he chose to feed his babies. Well, as a result of him not taking his blood pressure medicine, he developed a brain aneurysm, and he is no longer with us. That man is no longer with us because he chose to feed his 4 children under the age of 10. He chose that over getting his medication filled because he could not afford both, living in the USA. That's crazy, yo. That's crazy. Because so many people I see every day work so hard. And to know that you're working so hard and you still can't afford the basics, the things that you just need, your everyday essential items, that just doesn't even make sense. It doesn't make sense. A person should not ever be in a situation where they have to choose to either get food or get a prescription filled, because both of them are necessities. You need both of them to live, right? So a day where you have to choose between 2 things that are a necessity is crazy. And these are the times that we are in. These are the times. Men, y'all know men already don't even go to the doctor regularly. Men got to be on their last leg. You men, let me know. You men 55 and over, that I know what my audience is. How often are you going to the doctor? How often are you going to the doctor? Are you taking your medication? And what's your reasoning? What is your reasoning for not going to the doctor? And what is your reason for not taking your medication? Because if already you were complaining about not going to the doctor just because of the inconvenience of it all, you just don't feel like it. Now to add to it, okay, well, not only do I not feel like it, heck, I can't even afford to go. It makes me depressed just to even go. And when they tell me how much it's going to cost me, I just regret even coming and just choose to just not go back, because I don't want to get any more medical bills. Or they're going to tell me, hey, you need this prescription, that prescription, whatever, and I can't afford it anyway. So what's the point of me going? These are conversations that are warranted, that has to be had with today's times as we talk about inflation, the cost of things, going up. As we talk about employment, people losing their jobs, because guess what goes also when your paycheck goes? Your benefits. Your medical benefits leaves as well. So if you were someone who regularly had a prescription filled and the cost was offset because you had insurance through your employer, and now you no longer work, that employer is no longer there to offset that expense, where does that leave you? That leaves you in a really bad situation, right? It's a bad place. It's a bad place. So again, that then will start to impact what? Your mental health, your psyche. Because you're stressed now. You have added stresses. Not only can you not pay your bills, you can't even get your medications for you or even say your loved ones if you were the person who provided the insurance for the family. You have a lot of children today who are on medications, psychotropic medications, to manage their moods. So these things, they're not in the USA, much of them, they're not free. These things aren't free. It has to come from somewhere, right? And we're not known as a nation that has programs and things where you're going to get free medication and all that. That's just not how it goes down here in the USA. You can let me know in your countries how it goes down where you're at, but I believe from what I've learned, like most other nations, like their healthcare is free. The US is like, if not the only nation, one of few nations where our healthcare isn't free. So there's a lot for people to lose sleep over at night. As much as we tell them, hey, don't worry, it's going to be okay. For many people, it's hard for them to not do that. It's hard for them to not do that, especially if their life is dependent on something that they cannot afford to get. They can no longer afford to get, like medication, prescription medication. I remember when, I think it was the first time I got laid off. No, it was the second time. The second time I got laid off in 2011, I remember that was like the only time where I did not have medical benefits. And my husband, he had medical benefits on his job. The kids were underneath him, but just with me being added on, it was just going to bring up the costs in a way that I was just like, you know what, don't worry about adding me, just add the kids. I didn't really get sick like that to go to the doctor a lot, so I'm like, I'll just deal with whatever when it comes up, going to the doctor, pay out of pocket, whatever. So I got sick, went to the doctor, and I let them know, hey, this is what's going on to me. I paid, I think I had, back then, so this was 2011, since I did not have insurance, my visit was, I think it was $90. So I paid the $90, and then for the prescription, I let the doctor know, I don't have medical benefits. So that is when he told me about the grocery store Publix, which we have here in Georgia. Some of you may have Publix in your state. I'm from California. Publix is not a grocery store chain in California, but Publix is a big grocery store chain in the South, in particular Georgia. So he then told me about Publix and how they had, at that time, I don't even know if it's a thing anymore, $5 antibiotic prescriptions. So he told me to go to Publix, so I went there, and he also gave me some free things, because a lot of times doctors will have free like samples of like medicines and things. And I think I needed an inhaler because I'm an asthmatic, and at that time, I basically needed something to manage with my breathing. I might have had bronchitis or something going on there around that time. But he gave me this inhaler that was like valued at like $250. I think it was like $250 that inhaler was valued at. And that doctor, white male doctor, he had empathy for me. He gave me that inhaler. And then he told me, whatever else that I needed, he sent me to Publix, and he told me they had $5 prescriptions. And I went over there and got, the prescriptions filled. This was in 2011. I'm going to say stuff like that not popping off in 2025. Y'all can let me know in the comments if you got doctors giving you free, expensive meds because you can't afford to go get a prescription filled. You can let me know if stores still have $5 antibiotic meds, because I have medical insurance now. So, but during that time, I didn't. So I became aware of like the type of pricing that these items were, because I was in a situation to where I was having to pay out of pocket. It was my first time being in that situation. Fortunately, I haven't been in that situation again. I've been able to, I didn't work for 1 year. So for 1 year, I had to thug it out with the whole no insurance. Some of you all like, child, I ain't had insurance ever since I left my mama house. Or I haven't worked like that to be able to get insurance through an employer. How many of you all work for yourselves and you can't even afford to buy insurance? I know people who are self-employed and they're like, listen, I don't have medical insurance. I can't afford it. And even if the times when I have purchased it independently, I'll still get these steep medical bills. And I'm like, why am I still getting these crazy high medical bills when I'm paying for insurance? So guess what? They just say, F it. I'm not going to be buying or paying into insurance where I feel like I'm not benefiting, because I'm still getting these really high medical bills in the mail. Like, you all, these were conversations I was having with people prior to this. Was pre-pandemic conversations. Like the medical thing, this been a conversation piece for as long as I can remember. The comparison of the medical industry in the U.S. versus other countries. Most of the time I would hear people compare Canada. That's how I came to know, with Canada having free medical, because that's just the country that would always come up. But what I've recently learned is that most places, their medical is kind of like that. It's like U.S., their medical industry seems to be worse than most other nations, if not the worst, when it comes to just like the cost. It costs to be the boss. Like American, when they say, I want a piece of the American dream, you're going to pay for it. Can you afford the American dream? That is the question. Can you afford the medical dream? Miss Betty, Mr. Henry, can you afford the medical dream? The American dream. Can you afford the American dream? Because everything has a price tag on it. Everything has a price tag on it, and it's not free to be in America. It's not. You're like, what they say, you got to pay like you weigh. You got to pay like you weigh. And can you afford it? Can you afford it? And a lot of people who are from here, who's never even visited any other country, who were born here, like, they're like, listen, I ain't never even went nowhere to visit because I can't afford it. Like, this is all I know, and I still cannot afford to live in my own country. That's crazy, yo. A lot of times when I hear people talk about moving to other countries, it's centered around finances. A lot of people, seniors, people who are older in age, some of you may be here in this chat today, let me know, where once you retire, you relocate it. Because now that you've become on this fixed income, you need to live in an environment where your money will stretch further. Like, you see people move around within the U.S. because we're using with that thought process. People who, say, for example, worked in New York. So in Georgia, a lot of people that lived up north, worked all these years up north, and even California, what they will do is retire in those locations. And their retirement, their income is based off of that location because, their address. And then afterwards, after their retirement kicked in and they start getting their checks, they then pick up and relocate to the South because it's cheaper. It's cheaper to live in the South than it is any other part of the region within the USA. So people will then, that couldn't afford to buy, say, a house in New York or California, they will then make their way to the South, like Georgia, which is partly heavily why a lot of people live here. We have a lot of baby boomers here, like the people who are, like, we have a lot of 55 plus communities. Like, they started popping up heavy probably about 8 years ago, and they're not cheap either. And so they've been popping up heavy. And what I learned is that the reason why they've been coming here, a lot of the seniors and people up in age been relocating to Georgia, is because it's affordable. It's more affordable than, say, New York. And then a lot of them can't afford to go to Florida and be by the water, where many of them would rather. So Georgia is like the next best place for them, because it's next door. They can easily, take a drive to Florida to go lay on the beach. Whatever you do in your senior years when you ain't got nowhere to be. God willing, I will get there one day. But Georgia was like the next best thing. So here we have a lot of people who have relocated here in the last 10, 15 years, probably longer than that, who have come here to retire, to kick their heels up, for their money to stretch further. Because once you get on that fixed income, like, there ain't no increases. Y'all double tap the video, the screen, to hit the like button for me. It helps with the algorithm. Thank you. Good morning. Good morning. Happy Wednesday. Happy hump day. So people come to Georgia for survival, for money, for economic reasons. So I've been hearing about a lot of people having that same mindset when it comes to moving to other countries, like Africa. There's a lot of people here, because we have a lot of people who are from Africa, different countries in Africa, that live in Georgia. But there are a lot of American people, in particular Black American people, who has the plans of retiring here in the U.S. and moving to what some may call the motherland. They're like, listen, this money I'm hearing out there in Africa, y'all let me know if y'all know about the prices in Africa, in any of the countries in Africa, Nigeria, Liberia, Ghana. They're saying things are much cheaper there. You can buy a house, get a really nice house built for like $40,000, $35,000. This is what I'm hearing from people who've done their research on Africa and have considered relocating there. And a lot of people here in America have already started the process with maybe having homes built in other countries, even Caribbean countries, like those places as well. They find it to be just more affordable to just pick up and relocate. So while you got people trying to just sneak their way in the U.S., you got some Americans that's like, listen, y'all, you can have my spot, because I'm getting the heck out of here. I can't afford to be here. I have to go somewhere else, because this little $2,000, and that's if you just was really popping in your work career, to be able to pull in $2,000. Because in my chats, people don't be saying they be pulling in that much for their Social Security, retirement, whatever. So you got some people who may pull in $2,000 from just federal funding or something, and that's all they have to live off of. And here in the USA, that's not going to cut it. If you got $2,000 coming in a month, you are going to need to live with someone, because first of all, the rent alone is going to take up that check. And then you still have other necessities. You have utilities, you have food, and remember, the medication. Folks like, I ain't got it, chic. I ain't got it. So we are in an era where a lot of people are having to live with other people. How many of you are living with someone because you can't afford to live on your own? You like, listen, I don't like living here. I want to be over here, but I can't. I have to be at my mama house. I got to be at my daddy house, my sister house, my grandmama house, my granddaddy house, just the neighbor's house. I have to be here because I can't afford anything else. How many of you are living in your car? There are a lot of people who are living in their vehicles today more than ever. That's crazy, yo. But remember that the American dream, this is the place that people are just risking it all to come to, because they like, listen, I got to get out of here. I got to get out of Mexico. I got to get out of Colombia, Cuba, whatever. I got to get out of here. I need to come to the U.S. because according to what the commercials said and the movies in Hollywood. It's saying, listen, the USA is the place to be. Because y'all know all of that in them commercials, Hollywood, it ain't going into no pricing on how much it costs. They don't, y'all, you never see commercials advertising the cost of rent for like an apartment. Like, that's not what you see. You don't even see commercials centered around the cost of like housing in general. Like, you don't see ads like that. You see just the images of like what everything looks like, but it's not advertised like the price. Like, that's boots on ground information you come to learn. Even like a lot of times when you're going to websites for like apartment, like a lot of communities, like you're not going to really even see pricing advertised. You have to kind of go there. So you have a lot of people that's basing the idea of what the U.S. or the American experience is from not from reality, like from movies, from Hollywood. It's not realistic. It's not realistic. So then when they get here, it's just like, when they get here, it's just like, wow, okay, I see what's going on. Okay, well, I got to roll my sleeves up and do what I got to do because I'm here. But they don't realize all that it takes to be here and to be in the U.S. until they get here. Because they're focused on maybe the glitz and glam of a lot of things. And no one really talked about the cost of things. And it's just like with a lot of things. It's like you think that with your current situation is just the worst of the worst until you get into another situation. You be like, oh, snap. I'm struggling just like I was struggling where I just came from. Because some people move around and they'll still have these same financial struggles, even though as they move around, even just within the U.S., it's just like they're still struggling because now even the South, it's not as cheap as it once was. It may be cheaper, but it ain't cheap. There's a difference of cheaper and cheap. It is not cheap to live in Georgia. It's cheaper, but it's not cheap. And that's what people need to understand. So what I'm saying, this is just about enlightenment. Not complain. It's just to inform, because there's a lot of people who aren't informed. And they're making decisions based off of just things that aren't reality, So I'm here and I'm talking about the reality of the situation. The reality of the situation is that it costs to be the boss here in the USA. And from what I'm hearing, it costs more to be the boss in the USA than it does any other place to be. Even though this is the place where a lot of people are running to, it's like, are you prepared? Will your finances be in order enough to be able to come to the U.S. and live comfortably? Because there are a lot of American citizens who do not live comfortably here in the USA. They can't afford to live comfortably. Every month is a stress. It's a struggle for them as they figure out how to make ends meet. That's why the homelessness that is so crazy here in the U.S. Homelessness is insane. And more often than not, when I see people who are homeless, there are people visibly who look to be 55 plus. They're older people. They're seniors. They're not young people. They're people who you would think are at a point in their life where they're getting a check, a Social Security check, a retirement check, something like that, where they've worked all their life and now they're at a point to where, okay, they're done with working. It's time for them to just rest. These are the type of people, the homeless people that I see on the streets here in Georgia. You can let me know what they looking like where you live. But this is what I'm seeing here. as of late on the internet, what I'm seeing is that a lot of more the younger people who are also homeless, they're living in their cars. So you got the old heads, the older people, the seniors, they're on the streets at best in a shelter. But then you have young people who are maybe in their 20s, maybe 30s, they're sleeping in their cars. But both groups are homeless. Both groups are homeless. So if you're sleeping in your car, you are homeless. That is not an address. You cannot go to some place and list your car as your place of residency when you're filling out your paperwork. They need an address. They need a zip code. So a lot of people are down bad. A lot of people are down bad. So now when you have these countries coming out saying, hey, we are an option, it has a lot of people's attention like never before, because things are so expensive here in the USA to where people are now open to exploring alternative options for things, because they're tired of not having, and many of them life depends on, say, the medication, like the prescription. So they're like, yo, I cannot afford to not explore another option. I got to explore another option because I need this medication. My kids need this medication. And right now it's just not affordable. I have my one child need this medication, but I got 2 or 3 other kids who still need to eat. So, like, what we doing? What kind of decision do we make when we got one child that needs a medication that's expensive, and then you got 2 other kids who don't need medication, but they still have things that they need, food, clothing, things like that. This is where the stress comes in for a lot of people. And guess what? You all know what stress does. You know, stress can take you out. My background is clinical mental health counseling. I have a master's degree in clinical mental health counseling. So much of what I talk about, I circle it back around to the psyche, because when the body is not functioning properly, a lot of times it has to do with it start up here and you not being good here. Because if you're not good here, the rest of the body is going to start to break down. It's going to start to break down. You're not going to take care of yourself to the best of your ability if you're not good here. So mental health, that's why, like, you hear over the last, I would say 10 years, 12, maybe 15 years, like, mental health has been like a big conversation piece for a lot of people, because nowadays people are coming to understand what mental health means in a way that they never did before. When I was growing up, and even a younger adult, I'm 44, so even in like my 20s, even 30s, mental health wasn't something that I would hear people talk about. To be honest, my first time hearing of the term mental health was when I enrolled in my master's program to get my degree. I knew there were things like bipolar, depression, things like that, but I didn't know that all rolled underneath the umbrella of mental health. Because a lot of times when we, historically before, when we would think about, for many people, at least me, when I would think about health, I would more so think about more like the physical. Like how, okay, do I feel sick? Like, not really the health of like my brain, my mentality, my emotions, but just the physical. And so the world, we kind of took a shift and started looking beyond that, and started tapping in on the psyche of people with how they, you know, what type of thoughts they were having, if they're having healthy thoughts. So that's, you know, mental health. So it's just like, oh, okay, so in my degree, you know, I learned about all kinds of different things that all fell underneath mental health when it came to counseling. Because in my degree program, I had to just learn about, like, even though my interest was maybe family counseling, you know, I learned about just pretty much everything centered around like counseling in my program. So I didn't really box my wasn't boxed in as far as my studies. It was like I learned about kind of everything. That was the path I took. So therefore I can kind of touch in on different things because I learned about kids, seniors, drug addiction. I learned about all of that. So I then, was able to have the choice of saying, okay, well, what I wanted to have my niche in, what I want to kind of focus on or whatever. So underneath the mental health umbrella, that's why my degree is in mental health clinical. It's called clinical mental health counseling. So all of that, I learned about all of that. So that's why whenever I talk on here, even if I talk policies, no matter what you all may hear me talk about, I'm going to circle back around in some way to mental health because it all connects. It all connects. Even like a person like you may see that's severely overweight, that connects to their mental health. Majority of the people who are overweight and say it wasn't because, say, a steroid or something that put weight on them, because that's not the reason why most people are overweight. Most people are overweight because of just overeating. And then the overeating is a result of their emotions not being checked, their mental's not being checked. So because they're not good here and in here, they manage all that through like food. They comfort. How many, that may be some of you in here. How many of y'all, when y'all going through it, you just get to eating? Y'all's like, listen, I'm going to go to corral. I can't take this no more. I'm going to go to corral. I'll be back. So a lot of people handle, their emotions and things and manage their stress through food. And when that takes place, it starts to show up on the body. Meaning you start to become overweight, bad skin, lose your hair, all of that. So again, it circles back to the mental. That's why mental health is very important. And I will continue to talk about it because I understand how it can impact just all aspects of your life, from your finances, your relationships with your families, your romantic relationships, your ability to keep a job, all of that. Because if you're not good here, then you're not going to be the most effective when it comes to communication. And if you don't have good communication skills, in particular in your workplace, it is likely that you will pretty much end up losing your job. Because if you can't check your emotions and all of that, then that's a good way to basically get your walking papers. Because people listen, we're not doing that. We are not doing that. We're not doing that. So mental health is everything. That's why it's important to just have it in check. Those of you who do have, take medications regularly, and it's hard for you to keep it up and afford to kind of keep it up and take the meds that you need, it's important you share that information with your medical provider. It's important for you to get on the internet and research to learn about potential programs or resources out there that may be able to help you out, opposed to going without taking your meds, because that's what a lot of people are doing. They're just not taking their medications, and a lot of people aren't really exploring ways in which they can go about getting their medications in the event they can't afford it. So you have to you have to be resourceful. We're living in times to where we have to get out of our comfort zone, and we have to start communicating our needs in a way like we've never done before. So that means getting in conversations with people, being more transparent, with people. So therefore they can let you know about some potential resources that they're aware of that you maybe can explore to help you out. This is where we're at. This is where we're at. Because if someone isn't aware that you have a problem, how can they help you, right? Like, really think about it. If you have not made anyone aware that you are in distress, how can they help you? So you have to talk to people. You have to communicate with people. You got to let them know what your situation is. And more often than not, when you do this, there's going to be a person or some people who are going to talk about some resources that they are aware of. And I can give you a place, a kind of like a starting point for you to explore it. Like, oh, okay, well, let me look into that. I didn't know that was a thing. Just like you can online counseling. You can access therapists virtually. Like, get on the internet, like, yo, I need to talk to somebody, schedule an appointment, and for 3 o'clock today, you can talk to somebody about what you're going through a Teams call or Zoom. Like, that's a thing. And a lot of people don't know that. They think, oh, well, I have to go in person, to go and see somebody or get a referral. But that's not true. These resources are out there, but a lot of people aren't aware of them. They're untapped resources. And a lot of these resources that I learn about, I'm sharing with you, is things that people on social media share. In particular, like on, the TikToks and things. A lot of, that's the playground for the young folk. They love, doing the TikToks, and they create their videos, and they share all these gems with how to do certain things, because y'all know these kids, they're resilient. These young folks in their 20s, they like, listen, I ain't got it, so I'm finna show you how you can get it, because somebody showed me how to get to it, so I'm gonna show you how to get to it. Like, that's their mindset. The younger generation, they're not close. They're very, y'all know, they tell it all. They on the internet, they share all the business. So it's not them who I have to say, hey, talk to someone. No, they talking to the people. It's really the older people who I have to say, hey, communicate, talk to somebody. Because these young folks, they understand that they have no problem. Most of them, they have no problem like sharing whatever, talking, listening. They're different. It's a different generation, right? They move different. So, but they're resourceful, and I'm sure it's heavily rooted in, because they can't afford not to be. So when you're in a situation where it's like you don't have it, you're forced to have to be resourceful when it comes to things, right? So this is where they come in there. They're hustlers. These young folk, they have more but like a hustler mentality, to where they're going to figure out all these workarounds of things, because they're like, yo, I need this. So I got to be resourceful. I got to utilize my resources. I got to get on this TikTok, this Instagram, this YouTube, and let the people know what's going on. And so a lot of, information that people, including myself, learn about, it comes from, those people, the people, the younger generation. So I think that's awesome that, they're like that, that they're resourceful like that. And they're not a group of people to just sit in the unknown. Like, that's just not what that group. I don't know if that's the Gen Z, what generation you would call that group, with the 20s, the early 30s, but they're on this type of time of like, I'm about to go out and get to it. I'm about to go get to it. So, and I think that's a good mindset, that they have, especially in these times, because with these tough times and them being very resourceful in that type of way, I feel like that's going to benefit them, because they also they're fearless. So they're not afraid of stepping out and doing something different, picking up and relocating to another place. Like I said, they'll live in their cars. That's the group of people who are like, living in their cars. They're just like, listen, it is what it is. It is what it is. Whereas the older generation, my 55 plus generation, it's just like, ain't no way. Nerves. By that point, your nerves shot, your nerves bad. You like, folks crazy. I can't be living in no car. Like, older people, I notice a lot of times the older people it's like they start to move in fear more than they did before. And sometimes it can hold you back. But the young folks like, listen, it's hard out here for a pimp, and pimping ain't easy. But I got to make a way, because I got to get mine, because nobody is going to give it to me. So I got to go out and just find a way, make a way. And so I see a lot of young people, who are just really getting into it, especially even in, content creation, because it's centered from that mindset of like that hustle mindset of just having to get to it, having to get out of their comfort zone. Good morning, everyone. E-Mine or Love Your Mindset. Thank you so much. You all double tap the screen, like the video. So I started this video, because I wanted to just talk about just your experience when it comes to just affording to live, affording to breathe. Can you afford to just breathe? Y'all, you got to pay for water. Let you not pay your water bill. Guess what? You're not going to have water. It's just crazy. Like when you really think about it, like, wow, I got to pay for these things that require for me to live. Food and water. And I'm a paycheck away from not having either one of them. It's crazy. But that's the reality of the situation. It's the reality of the situation. It is what it is. And it's been like this for a long time. It's been like this for a long time. It's been a conversation piece for a long time as far as with how our medical can be better. Our system being on, some type of time like Canada is on with free healthcare. But here's the thing with that. What I've learned, with people, as far as with Canada, is like, okay, it's free, but because it's free, they got lines of people waiting to be seen for this free service. So although they're not paying for it like that, they still got to wait in line to be seen. And there are some people to where listen, while they waiting in line for their number to be called, they don't survive. Like they succumb to whatever condition they had. These are things that I am hearing that's taking place in like Canada, a place that has free healthcare. So you have your pros and your cons when it comes to just really anything. So this is what, the Canadians are saying, one of the cons when it comes to having a free service like healthcare is waiting in a long line to be seen to receive the service because it's free. Y'all know that line for free is always going to be longer than the line for something that you have to pay for. People will line up, get in line, and stand for a long time for free. If you think people stand in line for something they'll pay for, they'll stand in line for something that's free. Especially when you're like, I can't afford to not stand in this line. I have no other option but to stand in this line. That's how hard times are for me. So if I got to be in this line for 12 hours with a chair and a water cooler, a cooler with drinks and some food, then I got to do what I got to do because I need this resource. This is the reality of the situation. And as I say, it's not only hard for people here in the U.S., it's hard for people in other countries as well. Like I just talked about Canada. It's hard for them as well. Right now, it's hard for China. They're going through it. The tariffs, the 145% tariffs. I think with India, they got hit with 26%. So theirs wasn't as high. But the medication that comes over to the USA, that tariff is going to be attached to that. So somebody got to pay it, right? So if already pre-tariffs, people were struggling with affording their medication, what does that mean? Now that there's that already overpriced medication now has a 26% tariff attached to it. Will we see or hear about more cases of people not being able to afford to get their prescriptions filled? I don't know. Y'all got to let me know. Let me know in the comments. But this is the conversation. This is the conversation. Because some of you may be in a season in your life right now where you're not on prescription meds, but it is likely, going off of statistics, it's likely that that's not going to remain that way as you continue to age. It is more likely that you will eventually get to a point where there will be something that you'll be taking on a regular to sustain your life, whatever that may be. Because America is not known for having the most healthy people. Actually, I think the last I knew, I think our obesity rates, when it came to weight and things, I think the U.S., we have the highest like obese, rates when it comes to like overweight and obesity and things like that. So again, that's going to come with medical problems, right? High blood pressure, diabetes, all of that. Those things are managed through prescriptions. And they are not free in the USA. Like much of them are in India. They're not free in the USA. So these are times too to where some of you all may need to practice that OMAD, 1 meal a day. And for multiple reasons. One, to get that weight off. And two, to save money. I was watching a video over the weekend with this doctor. And it's a black doctor. It was like a short little video. And he just talked about how it's beneficial to eat 1 meal a day. And how it helps, it slows down aging. So look into the OMAD diet. OMAD stands for 1 meal a day. OMAD, 1 meal a day. Some of you may do it. I have different points in my life sometimes where I eat that way. Just depends on, most of the time on weekends, that's pretty much how I eat. But for the most part, a lot of my life I've kind of eaten that way, or what do you call it? The intermittent fasting, where you're going long hours in between meals. So look into those things, because not only will it save you money when you eat that way, you'll also lose weight, which can also help you with your overall health and maybe get you off of some of those prescriptions that you currently are on. Or it can be a preventative to prevent you from getting on some of these, prescriptions that a lot of Americans are. You got to figure it out, because listen, I feel like if it's worth saving a coin and extending your life expectancy, then you know what you need to do. You know what you need to do. Right now, many of us are probably in a time to where it's like we can't afford to not do better in some aspect of our life when it comes to our finances or even how we eat, because things cost. Things cost. So when we crack down and tighten up on, say, our spending, that helps. And then when we focus on, taking care of our bodies, that's going to help as well, because now you're not going to need to purchase these expensive prescription drugs here in the USA if you're an American citizen. You're not going to need to purchase them. So that's going to also be more money you have, right? Especially if you don't have benefits and you don't have insurance to offset that cost or cover it. So food for thought, really think about that, because some of you all may spend hundreds of dollars each month on prescriptions. So imagine if that wasn't a thing and you could pocket that money. Think about what you can do, especially for those who are soon heading to a place of being on a fixed income. Maybe you're entering into your retirement season. Like, in every little penny counts. So focus on, trying to improve your health so you can get off of some of these medications. It's just an idea. So I think it can help many people. Yeah. So yeah, these are the times. Right now with the whole reveal, we are in a season of reveal. And China has revealed a lot as of late, and India is now, revealing information as well. And these reveals really are beneficial for us as American people, because now we're hearing about other alternative ways to get those things that we may want or need. at a cheaper price. Whereas before we didn't know we had an option to get them elsewhere. Now we see, we're learning that we have options. And that's not really what we were kind of told, living here in the U.S. as far as, we're having options to go elsewhere to get whatever. It's almost like, okay, this is the price. It is what it is. Shut up and pay up type thing. But now it's like we're learning that there are options. And that's the thing with this tariffs. I talked about it earlier on when I first started talking about tariffs. However long I've been talking, I started talking. But I said we were going to be entering into a time where we're going to have to explore other options, other brands, because the tariffs being attached to things may have us to not be able to afford certain brands. So when we find ourselves in that situation, it's like, okay, I have to look into these other brands that maybe I had been hearing about over the years and never tried. Or maybe you're now learning of these new brands and you're like, okay, well, I want to give these brands a try. Because right now, the brand that I've been loyal to, it's kind of tight. It's hard for me to keep up with, the regularly purchasing things from them. So let me try this other brand and see if I can have a comparable experience, and while still paying what I'm used to paying, or even paying less than what I'm used to paying. So this is a time where a lot of people, it's a time for change. People got to change, get out of their comfort zone. And a lot of time when you find yourself in a situation, that is when you're forced to change and move differently. And that's kind of what happened with me over the years. When I've been laid off, it'll force me to try other brands. Oh, I'm used to buying brand cereal. Oh, okay, well, I don't have a job now. Let me try this non-name brand cereal and see what it's about. That's I'm speaking from experience, because sometimes your circumstances don't allow for you to move the same way you once did. You got to pivot. You got to adjust, right? So I know all about that, because for finances, I couldn't afford to not try something different. I couldn't afford to. I had to, like, the way my bank account was looking, I had to try other brands. And guess what? Most of those brands, when it came to cereals, condiments, things like that, I came to learn that they really weren't that different from the brand, where it changed the experience as far as the taste and the enjoyment of the taste. No. That's what I learned. Some of you may have see that too. Some of you probably like, listen, I ain't never rocked with brands. I get people that come in my comments, they'll be like, Sheik, I've never been a